Okay, South Dakota. That corn crop is really a pretty good corn crop up there. Maybe not as good as it was a year ago, but still it's an awfully good corn crop. When we got into northeast Nebraska, and you start getting into the states and the production areas that can really impact your national yields, northeast Nebraska is a really good corn crop. That dryland crop is a little bit better than it was a year ago, and last year it was an outstanding dryland corn crop. Not only that, but the irrigated corn in northeast Nebraska is really good. Southeast Nebraska, the corn crop got a little disappointing. Not only in the dryland, which is starting to shrink back a little bit now, but also in the irrigated, and that was because of the ear counts that we had. The ear pops just weren't what we had a year ago in southeast Nebraska. Then we get over into Iowa. This is a situation that is developing here in Iowa, and southwest, west central, and northwest Iowa, the ear counts are decent. We're down a little bit in a couple of the districts. We're actually up in the southwest, but the big difference between this year and last year, and most growers know it, and that is that length of grain on the cob. We're down roughly 10% on grain length in those three crop districts. And when you take 10% off of your grain length, of course you're going to start cutting into yield. And we saw yields that were down anywhere from 8. Northwest was down about 5%, but when you get down in the southwest part of the state, we're down almost 11%. So there's a problem out there in this western Iowa corn crop, and the problem is real easy to identify. It's in the length of grain.
Is that same scenario shaping up in Minnesota?
I don't know yet. We're going to get into Minnesota, but when we talk to the Minnesota growers and, just doing a little investigative work before we go out on this big investigative tour, and the guys in Minnesota seem really pumped up about their yield potential. The Minnesota guys, they get out, they do a lot of checking of their fields. With the populations that are planted up in Minnesota, you got to keep real close track of what's going on in those fields. Because if a disease comes in that you can control, if you get behind the curve in Minnesota, it's going to run away with you. The guys know that, and as a result, everybody that I've talked to is looking for a really good corn crop in Minnesota.
Can we produce a good corn crop and a good bean crop in the same year?
We did it last year. And they typically are different animals. They like different conditions. And I think what we're seeing in Iowa in particular, at least western Iowa so far, is that we had good bean growing weather, but the corn growing weather wasn't as good as what it should have been. Our pod counts in western Iowa are off the charts again. We're going to be looking at record pod counts. The western part of Iowa's got plenty of water to go ahead and finish. The big unknown right now is if the western Iowa bean crop can hold on to the yield potential that it's already built. In the west central part of the state, we've got some significant sudden death. The SDS is really starting to kick in, and it's continuing to move on west towards the Missouri River. And the real question is the Iowa bean crop going to be able to hold on to the yield potential that it's got? Because it's got awesome potential. I just don't know if it's going to be able to hold on to it with all the SDS that we've got in the state.
You'll be able to gather much potential on Illinois, Indiana, Ohio?
Yeah. Illinois, the corn crop, the final numbers from the eastern leg of the tour, the corn yield's down just slightly from a year ago. Bean pod counts are up from a year ago. That's kind of the story that we've been telling across the Corn Belt. And with that corn yield down just a bit, USDA was looking for some big numbers as of August 1. Makes me think that we might have found something in Illinois that similar to what we're finding here in western Iowa, just the ears tipping back a little bit. The heat that we've had in the state, the high nighttime temperatures, it's all having an impact. Heck, go all the way back to planting season. Some of that corn got into the ground and sat there for a little bit too long, and our emergence rate might have been down just a little bit. And then when it started to rain, it really started to rain. And all of that could have a negative impact. You lose your nitrogen, you lose all kinds of growing momentum when all that water hits it. And there's lots of factors that are playing into that shorter ear length.
From the market standpoint, is the recent run-up a gift, or was the low put in and we're on the uphill?
Good question. It was not a gift. I will tell you that. There is a good reason for it, and that's we've lost a lot of feed around the globe. And there are a lot of livestock producers around the world that are going to be looking to the U.S. to provide some feed for them in the year ahead. We just aren't going to have enough feed wheat coming out of the former Soviet Union, for example, to satisfy the needs for the livestock industry. So they're going to be looking to the U.S. for some feed, and as a result, yeah, absolutely, the run-up has been justified. Now, with this crop and some of the problems that we're identifying, we can't give up a bushel. We absolutely cannot give up a bushel. At 165 bushels per acre, the crop is expected to be almost 200 million bushels below our expected use in the 2010-11 marketing year. If you give up a bushel under that, all of a sudden we're 250, 260 million bushels shy. You start running into problems in a hurry, and you got to start to slow down your use, and there's only one way to do that. Now, conversely, let's say that somehow, some way, this corn crop ends up being bigger than what USDA estimated on August 1, which is possible. I'm not going to rule that out. But if that happens and we push yields all the way up to, say, 168 bushels per acre for a national average yield, at that point, the way that we've got our usage numbers for the 2010-11 marketing year, our corn crop is only going to be 25 million bushels bigger than we will use in the 2010-11 marketing year. We need bigger yields in the years ahead, and we need more corn acres in the years ahead. For 2011, just real quick, wheat is buying acres for 2011. If we increase wheat acres in 2011, it's going to be real tough to have enough corn acres to meet the demand for 2011. So be patient on your 2011 marketings.
And for now, you're an aggressive seller of beans and off the combine.
You bet. We got to get them sold off the combine. Number one, the price, it's not awesome, but it's pretty decent. The other thing is the structure of the market is not going to pay us to store beans. It's basically a flat market out to July of 2011. And if the market isn't going to pay us to store beans, there's no reason to put them in the bin. So we want to have 100% of the crop sold by harvest. If that's the wrong thing to do, and if the market starts to turn higher again, obviously we'll re-own it with either call options or long futures. But the structure of the market is really forcing us to go ahead and get to 100% sold. Move those beans from the combine to the cart to the truck to town. Corn, different story. The market is paying us to store. We want to be making sales. If today's price is good enough for you, and that's not a bad reason to sell, that is not a bad reason to sell. If today's price is good enough for you and you've got bin space, look out to the March, the May, or even the July for a delivery period.